The gift of time is one of God's greatest gifts to us. The book of Genesis describes how God created the heavens and the earth and this beautiful world which we inhabit. It then goes on to say that on the seventh day God rested, and it was the seventh day that God called holy. Now you might think that the first thing that God calls holy might be perhaps a holy mountain or a holy lake, but no, the first thing God calls holy is time. Time, this precious, holy gift. Well, these days I think we know only too well how we have sadly damaged and polluted the gift of God's creation. But I think we're perhaps less aware of how much we have also damaged and one could say polluted the gift of time. For many of us, time is experienced no longer as a precious gift, but almost like an enemy. We haven't got enough time. I can never get everything done that I want to do. Oh, if only I could have more time. Or on the other hand, we waste time, or we fritter it away, we kill time. All these are the things I think which bear witness to a sense of disorderedness, a disordered relationship with this precious gift. So how might we redeem time? And I hope that over this series we can together explore ways in which in our own personal lives we can reorder that gift in our own lives. We can perhaps ask the question of how I might reorder time in my own life so that my life can begin to be more abundant, and that in my life I may use the gift of time in such a way as to be much happier and to glorify God. Perhaps we can ask that question in the words which I love, the beautiful words from the poet Mary Oliver. What is it that you plan to do with this one wild and precious life?
What is your relationship to time?
In this 5-week series, we brothers are inviting you to participate with us in a conversation around time. Time is a gift from God, but very often we experience it as something that brings stress and anxiety into our life. We don't feel we have enough time, or we're trying to fit everything into the time that we have, and we find ourselves pushed by time and pulled by time. So we'd like to look in this series at ways of reordering our time, of rethinking how we engage with time. And we're going to do that in under 5 categories. In the first week, we'll just talk about stopping. There are certain times when we're called to stop what we're doing, to rest or to reflect. We'll also talk about prayer. How does prayer fit into our lives, and where do we find the time to pray and stay connected with God? We want to talk about work, because many of us have a disordered relationship to time and work. And work drives us and consumes our time in ways that we experience as unhealthy and unwholesome. We want to talk about play, because very few of us take time to play. And play is actually very important has an important role to play in the balance of our life. And we want to talk about taking time to love, taking time to listen to others, time to be with others, time to live into the fullness of our relationships. So we hope that you'll join us and that you'll think with us on these topics, and you'll consider the place of time in your own life.
How do you set priorities in your life?
In the creation account, the book of Genesis, we hear how time is holy, a sacred creation of God. And yet I think for so many of us, time is a tyranny. There's not enough of it. It's the enemy. and we're pulled in a multitude of directions because of how we're presumed to be multitasking and being virtually present all over the world, and yet probably not really present where life is happening, which is right now. We have a video series for the next 5 weeks where we're going to invite you to listen and ponder and pray your life and make peace with this provision called time, which is part of how God has given us life.
What will you call Sabbath?
Many of the people who we're talking to have jobs, families at home that require attending to, people who are optimally busy at the prime of their life. But the message that we have about time applies to people who maybe have moved into a different phase of life. And certainly, I'm sure many of you know, retirement or the end of a career certainly doesn't tend to make one any less busy. I think the common enemy in all this, in our relationship to time, is always distraction, mindless activity that we engage in. And I think no matter what we've been talking about with regard to time, it's about an intention. It's about doing something on purpose. You can be at the height of your career, or perhaps you have no responsibilities whatsoever, and you can still waste time.
What daily practice sparks joy in you?